Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In this lesson, we'll be learning about al-fi'lul madi, which is the past tense verb. Now, before we get into that, I just want to explain a few things. So if we take any past tense verb in its base form, we're speaking of one person who is masculine and the verb has already been completed. So as an example, let's take Jalasa Muhammad. Muhammad sat. The verb is put in front. Now, we'll discover later on, actually, in Arabic, you can actually change the positions. So Muhammadun, Jalasa, is also grammatically correct. And it has a slightly different meaning, and there are nuances that one learns later on when one gets into more advanced Arabic. But the point is, we have the verb, Jalasa. And who is the doer of this action? It's Muhammad. Muhammad sat. This is what's known as an intransitive verb. Now, what does intransitive mean? It's an action that is only performed by the doer of the action. So Muhammad sat. An example of a transitive verb is nasara. So if I said, Nasara Muhammadun Khalidan. Nasara means he helped. So it would be Muhammad helped Khalid. So the act of helping was already done in the past, and it was done by Muhammad, and the recipient of the help was Khalid. So when there is a recipient of the action, it could be a human, it could be an object, whatever it is, we call this type of verb transitive. And it's important to know the difference there. Another difference is the difference between active and passive. And this is why I mentioned the transitive and intransitive verbs, the active voice and the passive voice. We're going to be concentrating on the active voice. So what is the active voice? It's when the doer of the action, the one who has performed the action, in this case Muhammad, he's actually mentioned. So Muhammad helped Khalid. When we look at the passive voice, we take the doer out. Not that there is no doer, but that the doer is not mentioned. So we say, Nusira Khalidun. And notice the actual grammatical state changes. We'll talk about this later on in grammar in more detail. But I just want to draw attention to this. When we talk about the passive voice, we use, in this case, Nusira. So Nusira Khalidun means that Khalid was helped. But we don't know who helped him. Somebody helped him, but we don't know who that person is. And in fact, it could have been more than one person that helped Khalid. And in this case, the verb would not change. So Nusira is he was helped. Who did the helping? It's not mentioned. So we're not talking about the passive voice. We'll be speaking about the active voice. Okay, so that's a point there. So any active voice, past tense verb, will have the three base letters. So each of these letters represent the three letters of any past tense verb. So the first radical, which we call the fa kalima, the fa of the word, is the first letter. The ayn of the word, or ayn kalima, is the second radical. And the lam kalima, the lam of the word, is the third radical. Now what you notice on the fa and the lam is a fatha. This is because the past tense verb will always have a fatha on the first letter and the third letter. And we talk about, as we said, the active voice. It will always be the case. No exceptions. And what varies is the vowel, the harakah, on the second letter. This could be either a fatha, a kasra, or a dhamma. Which one is it? This is based on the usage of the Arabs, especially what we find in the Quran. Now, how do we actually know what the harakat will be? Because in Arabic script, usually the harakat, the vowels, are not written down. So if we actually come across a verb, it's three letters. How are we going to know how to pronounce it? Now, a good way to find out is to actually use a dictionary. Try to find a dictionary that actually mentions what the halaka is. A popular dictionary that students use is the Hans Bear Dictionary. So as an example, if we go to the sheen, the ha, and the ra, and here we can see from these letters, the a after the sheen, and is an a after the ha, and is an a after the ra. So that would be shahara. He was well known, he was famous. Now if we look at this entry here, we have the sheen, the ha, and the dal. If we look at this entry, what do we see? We understand that the first and third radical both have the a, but the middle here, there's an I here, which represents a kesra. So it's shahide, which means he was a witness. And here, in this entry, after this scene, there's a U. It's hasuna. So what does hasuna mean? If we look at the entry, it says to be handsome. So he was handsome, beautiful, lovely, nice, good, or even it was good, fine, suitable, proper, and so on. Now, when it comes to intelligence, we're speaking of human beings. Everything else on the earth will be considered non-intelligent. But that letter next to it, that's related to the present tense verb. We'll cover that later on. We have, for example, semia, which means he heard. The middle letter gets a kasra. Another verb, shariba, he drank. And the ra, which is the middle letter, also gets a kasra. Now, can you guess these two verbs, semia and shariba, are they transitive or intransitive? You probably guessed it. They're transitive. Because he heard, you could ask, what did he hear? Or who did he hear? So the who or what asking this question shows that it is a transitive verb. Similarly, he drank. What did he drink? And so it's transitive. Also, with some base letters, we can have more than one past tense verb form. So as an example, we have these two verbs, lebise and labeta. Now they are both related meanings. One of them means he wore, and that's transitive. So what did he wear? He wore clothes, for example. And it could also be used metaphorically as well, to wear something. Like when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he talks about libasu taqwa, the covering of a taqwa, of God consciousness. But we also have lebese. Lebese means it was obscure or it was confusing. So the matter was not clear, in other words. It became confused. And the relationship between these two would be that when something is covered over with something else, it becomes unclear. But the point is, we have two verb forms here. One with the middle radical being a fatha, and one of them being a kasra. Now, if you were to go to the Hans Bear Dictionary and look up this entry, you will only find lebise. It doesn't mention there is a different verb form for both of these meanings. Both meanings are mentioned in a dictionary, but under one verb form. So the reason for this is that the Hans Bear Dictionary is a dictionary of modern standard Arabic, not Quranic Arabic. So I just wanted to mention that point and highlight a limitation of this dictionary. Now, the Hans Bear Dictionary will suffice most students in their studies. And obviously, when you study the Quran, a Quran is at a different level, which will require more in-depth resources and to learn from those who have the knowledge.
So if you're interested in beginning your studies in the Quran, then consider studying at our institute. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum. So this is a brief overview of how to use our website and how to access the different courses. The first thing you need to do is to register a student's account. That can be done through here, register today. You can also here create a new student account. So let's do that. There's free registration and there's 2 free courses. Now you can register using social media apps. So if you're connected to one of these, mostly Google, Facebook are the most popular ones, but we have other social media logins as well. And this is done through Hiko software. So it's a very secure, it's not done through us, it's done through the main provider. And so there's more security there. The other way is to do it the traditional way, is through your name, email, and then password, and then you can create it here. So there's 2 ways of doing that. Now I'm going to log in with my student account. So you log in here, student login. I'm Arabic@siboinstitute.com, and I've done it the traditional way. And we'll do student sign in. Now, once you're signed in, order history. And here it should say student account. And over here, as you can see, it says you are logged in and it has your name. And then we have the courses. All these courses can be accessed here. So they're all here. And usually will have a lock. But when you actually purchase the course, and obviously if you purchase lifetime access, you'll get all of them unlocked. Introductory morphology. You go inside here. So over here, you're met with the menu. Base letters, examples, how words are derived. So to click. So over here are the notes. We download the notes, then continue on, and then we go to the first lesson. And so you have all the lessons here. You have the quiz, there's quizzes, and each one has their own dedicated lessons and handouts. So we go to this lesson, and you can choose what lesson to go to and continue. And then there's a final assessment, and you can get certification. You can download the certificate, but you can get actual certification through us, and your name will appear on our website if you desire so. We can have a dedicated page for you and your accreditation. You can go back and then go to another course. Let's choose as an example, Al-Hidayatu fi Nahu, part 1. Over here, we have all the lessons and the handouts and the quizzes. So everything is there and it's very similar.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.
When you have a question, each course, let's just go to this course. This is the basic. It's a free course, this one actually. You can ask the teacher. So here, ask teacher. And then you can ask your questions here. And then you get an answer soon after, inshallah ta'ala. So that's the interface. We also we're constantly having new courses, new lessons. So please watch out for that. We also are starting to introduce apps as well. So here with the lifetime membership, we get, for example, we have this. This is actually a dictionary. For example, a simple one. Let's go, for example, to kabara. It will go to this. It will define each term. It will give you sentences and different words to go to that are derived from the same 3 base letters. It will give you synonyms as well. So this is actually a very nice tool also to have. This is with lifetime membership. We're constantly adding new courses and new lessons, and we'll be adding new tools as well, inshallah ta'ala. This package actually is worth over $1,000 completely, but we do have offers that will greatly reduce the amount that you need to pay, inshallah ta'ala. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.